Welcome to Release Your Conscious Creator show, a show created to inspire others to find and follow their calling so that they can create a life that aligns with them, fulfills them, and inspires them. Today, I'm talking to Elliot Trevez. Elliot is a meditation, mystic, spiritual warrior, and conscious creator who guides others to remember their inherently profound nature. He's realized that his passion is to uplift and inspire others, and that is his calling and purpose. He uses meditation, sound healing, music, body art, and to rejuvenate, elevate, and activate the potential that lies within. So thank you for joining me today, Elliot. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell us where you are and what it is that you do. Let's give them a brief introduction.
I'd say you did a pretty good job yourself introducing me with all that. But yeah, my name is Elliot. I have been teaching people about spirituality, meditation, and all sorts of things related to the human condition for a number of years now. I started on Insight Timer with StressFit, and I've moved on to doing lots of different events, including sound healing, full moon, new moon ceremonies, as well as workshops online. And yeah, I'm using a variety of different modalities of healing to help facilitate this change on the planet through my own platforms. And I have a website that I run everything off of now online, and welcome to check that out and be a part of the newsletter and join the community. So yeah, I'm here in lots of different capacities, from sound healing to meditation to just spiritual coaching. And been doing that for a number of years now.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, finally, I didn't know you started with StressFit, but that's the first time I heard you actually, was on a meditation with StressFit. And yeah, I have to admit, those meditations changed my life. So, I definitely recommend anybody to check out Elliot on Insight Timer and have a look at some of the amazing meditations he's got there. And so you mentioned helping people with the awakening, so to speak, and to finding themselves. What got you started with that?
I needed a job.
Awesome.
I needed a job at the time. And it was for, with StressFit, there was an ad on our website Gumtree, which is like a public classified sort of website where you can post any sort of job. And so I was just looking for a job, and I found this ad about, creating meditations, and needed some sort of recording and engineer gun on the team. And because I was already doing a lot of recording and sound engineering and production, I applied to that ad, and turned out that I really enjoyed what the meditations were doing and what they were about. And so I just started to get deeper into my own meditation practice as a result of wanting to show up in the right way to be able to record these meditations that had been written and sent to me as a script. And so I was recording them, doing a fair bit of translating and adjusting the different things that were being said so that it would fit for my for who I was. And then I would create the music and engineer everything and then send it off, and it was all a complete done deal. So I was really doing a majority of the work, but at the beginning the scripts were somebody else's. And then one day I just thought, well, why can't I create some meditations? Because I've been doing this for a while now, and I've always been into meditation, been a meditative person in general throughout my life. And so yeah, I just started to create my own meditations and realized that they were a kind of culmination of a lot of different stuff that I had come across with in my life, from Buddhism to Native American spirituality to visualization techniques that I had learned. Yeah, just using all these different things to draw inspiration from.
Awesome. And so at the time you said you were doing sound recording. So are you a musician?
Hmm. Yep, I've been playing music since I was a kid, and always had an affinity for making music and being in bands and stuff like that. And then I think it was around 2003 I started to really think about doing my own kind of stuff with for film. I wanted to create music for film. I was really inspired by Reggio Godfrey and Philip Glass with their trilogy, the Qatsi trilogy. And as soon as I watched Poyanis Qatsi, I was just absolutely hooked and wanted to make music for film. So I started to dabble in music for film, and that ultimately led me to just producing and engineering my own stuff.
Nice. And now you use a combination of modalities. You use sound healing as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of led me into sound healing, but it was always, part of the journey with meditation, I guess you could say, because there was, always my world was always involving music, the way I always experienced meditation and life. There was always a big aspect around the oral qualities of it. I was always really into music. My mom told me that when I was a little kid, I was always just bouncing around in my seat, pulling out all the pots and pans and banging stuff around and doing all this stuff with it. Always musical, always experiencing rhythm and melody in my life in different ways. And so, yeah, I just, always felt my experience of life was very musical. And so, sound healing just feels like a natural progression of everything that I was doing, because once I started to really hone in on meditation, I started to really hone in on my intention, intentional quality of life. And that combined with frequency is ultimately what, sound healing is about. Once you can create a sound and a form and put intention behind it, you can do many different things with that. So it felt like a natural progression for me to step into that sort of space once I started to work with people on their healing journey, on their spiritual path. So it was really nice to, you know, feel that coming naturally from what I was doing, combining the music and the healing, and yeah, finding the incredible vast field of information and um, experience that lies within the sound healing field.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I've just learned something. So it's not just about the vibration and the frequency, then it's to do with the intention that you set when you do the sound healing. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have somebody that's creating sounds with a sacred instrument, for instance, and their intentions aren't, they're not set, they're not fully conscious of what they're doing, you can actually harm somebody with that sound because of the way you're playing it, sort of energy that's behind it. The instrument is just that, it's an instrument for being used for something, but ultimately how you use it is going to affect how that sound is perceived and how that sound feels to the individual. So when you combine very powerful tones and frequencies and things like this with an intention, that's ultimately where you get the healing aspect from what you're doing. You could be playing a number of different instruments in a number of different ways, but really how you're doing it and the sort of intention placed behind it, it's a lot.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. Well, I did not know that. And I mean, I've learned something today. So thank you for that. So you said that when you started with stress fit that we were doing a number of things already. When did your journey start with spirituality and consciousness?
I I felt it was always there. Like I think a lot of people have a hard time experiencing what is beyond the physical nature of life because they've been in their heads for most of their life.
Mhm.
They've been in some way desensitized to being within their own body. There's different sorts of situations that an individual can get into growing up and going through life that sort of makes them detached from their physical body. And so therefore, if you're detached in some way and not sensitized to your own physical body, the physical nature of life is everything, because what you're desensitized to is what you cannot fully feel and hold within your experience, within your presence. So there's a lot of people that I find need help sensitizing themselves back into their body. They need to be brought back into their body in a gentle way that shows them that it's safe to be there. It's safe to be themselves. It's okay to be within their own bodies. And, as a result of, the way that academia works and the way that a lot of people, use their faculties, the mind is overpowering. The mind is always taking over that combination of different faculties. So the mind is very heavily dominant in a lot of people's experience. And so for me growing up, I didn't really feel that I was fitting in quite well. And I spent a lot of time out in nature. I spent a lot of time just walking in the woods and, building tree forts and doing stuff like that. So for me, I wasn't being held back by my body so much, and I wasn't so busy up here in the mind. So I was experiencing a lot of stuff that was, for me, hard to explain, hard to articulate. But it was ultimately, culminating into my experience during my teenage years, where I had a lot of troubles and a lot of things going on in my life that were hard to explain, coming into adulthood. So I was looking for answers. I was looking for ways to articulate that. And what I found was meditation. Meditation allowed me to just be with my feelings, just be with my thoughts, just be with my body and the physical nature of life. And through, spending that sort of time and energy with myself to understand what life was really about, I found this beautiful, relationship that I had with all of life that wasn't actually physical in nature, because I could close my eyes and I could feel incredibly connected with a tree next to me, or I could close my eyes and I could experience the breeze, flowing over my skin in such an intimate way, or I could be with an animal or creature and I could feel the creature or animal's spirit with me. And so, I kind of recognized pretty early on that I was different in this way, and that I had somehow, cultivated a spiritual essence growing up. And so, yeah, for me, spirituality is not disconnected or separate from everything. Um, it's a part of everything. It's just an essence of everything that is and ever was. And so that's ultimately how I find myself experiencing everything. Is It's just another aspect of what's happening, and it's a bit more subtle in levels of perception, of course, because we have our five senses. We have our eyes to see, we have our mouth to taste and speak and communicate, we have our nose to smell, we have our ears to hear, we have our sensorial organs, to be able to feel everything. But what is beyond our five senses is ultimately what is connecting everything in this existence.
Mhm.
And if we're not able to sense into that and feel into that and experience that as part of our, moment to moment experience, we have to cultivate that level of sensitivity. We have to cultivate that depth of perception to be able to also experience the non-physical as part of our, you know, day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience. So it was always a part of what I was, you know, experiencing growing up. And then it kind of got taken away from me when I started to fall off the tracks of righteousness in my my teenage years. I got into a lot of different, you know, things that wasn't conducive for me being sensitive and perceptive human being. So it took some time after that to heal and to come back to my core again. And so I realized, you know, during that time, like, wow, I had something really special growing up. I had the opportunity to be in a peaceful, loving, nurturing environment and to experience the spiritual nature of life very naturally. And I don't want to lose that. And for those who haven't experienced that yet and who don't know what that is, I want to teach them that.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to quite a lot of your story, and I remember being really connected with nature when I grew up. I never actually got into meditation or anything when I was younger, but then I also, best way, I had made some questionable choices in my teens, that completely took me off the track off the path into my 20s, a bit like you. And so, how what would you say is the main reason that somebody should connect to their divine nature, to the spiritual world, to spirit as it is around us, and really understand this? What are they going to get from doing that?
The short answer would be because it's there, right? If something so profound and mysterious is there, available to you, why not go for it? Why not attempt to connect with it and try to understand it and be a part of it every single moment of your life? But the long answer is because it is you. It is everything that has ever been created and can be created in this universe. The level of information that comes through in your spiritual practice is unlike anything else. So for most people, like we are just, you know, mentioning, is there's so much in this world that keeps our attention in the body, keeps our attention in the mind. Our energy is constantly trying to analyze, judge, dissect things with the mind. And we have this physical body to deal with. We have to keep it healthy. We have to keep it moving. We have to upkeep this vessel in order to be healthy and live a happy life. But there clearly is another layer of energy combining everything in this vast existence. Everything is made of particles and atoms that are constantly in motion, vibrating, rotating, spinning around one another. It's a huge cosmic dance. The whole existence is a huge cosmic dance. If we have access to this incredible wealth of information that is beyond our physical nature, that is a part of what we are, that we cannot see, smell, taste, hear, touch, then we should try to cultivate that. We should try to understand and experience that as part of our um, as part of our quest through life, because it helps connect everything that we've done and who we are with the greater existence. And this allows us to find peace in our world. It allows us to find a sense of connection that is lost as we grow up in this sort of society where it's teaching us that, you know, physical physical gains and you know, everything that money is offering us is perceptively for freedom, and we want freedom. We want to be able to live the life that we want. We want to be able to able to go on vacation when we want. We want to be able to buy good food. We want to be able to buy our own house. We want to be able to accumulate all this stuff in our world, you know, a beautiful partner, good friends, social life. Everything is about the physical realm of life. But when we take a step back and think, well, what is actually making me feel fulfilled in life? What is actually allowing me to experience joy and bliss and ecstasy? It's the experience that we are having within ourselves, and not all the stuff on the outside that's supposed to fill us up. And that's what society is teaching us. Go out there with an education, with this construct of a social, framework, and collect as much stuff as you can. You know, it's like playing Pokemon. Got to catch them all. Just go out there and try to get all the stuff.
Yeah.
But the individual soul, the soul experience doesn't need or want any of that stuff. The soul simply wants enough physical manifestation to allow for there to be greater exploration into the oneness of life, into the possibilities of what it is to be human. When we buy into that and really dedicate at least a part of ourselves, a part of our time, a part of our day, a part of our energy towards experiencing the limitless nature of our experience, then the soul becomes deeply gratified. The soul becomes deeply reflective of the entire cosmos, because we are an individual reflection of the whole. And the soul is not disconnected from the source. The soul is just here in this physical manifestation in order to work out certain karmas and certain ways of, perceiving things. We've come here to learn something. And so it's important that we cultivate that. It's important that we spend some time each day practicing what we call as spirituality, what we call the spiritual essence of life. Because if we don't, then we lose contact with that. And when we lose contact with that, we really lose the whole plot. We get so focused on what we are doing, what we are compared to our peers, how we match up to people on social media, and we just become obsessed with accruing more stuff and feeding our desires, which is always going to leave us in a constant state of suffering, because that's not what we are. We're not our body, because we can change our body however we want, but that's not who we are. That's not what we are. And that goes as well for our thoughts and the feelings that we have. These are all things that make up the content of our life. But if we want to experience things differently, if we're not happy, if things aren't working for us currently, we have to consider scrapping it all and finding a new way to live. Now, to do that takes an enormous amount of courage and dedication. But I don't see what else is truly worth living for. If we're not going to explore our limitless potential as a soul that's been reincarnated in this physical form, in this physical world with all these different things that have been created and destroyed and brought back to life, if we're not interested in going beyond all of that, if we're not interested in learning how to go inward and experience on the soul level what this existence is about, then we're always going to be limited by our thoughts and feelings and physical, nature. And as soon as, somebody gets a taste of what's beyond the physical nature of life, there is so much information that starts to pour into them that connects them with absolutely everything and everyone.
Well, yeah, I love that. I love the short and the long answer there. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like from my experience, I was diagnosed with depression as a child at 13, and then at 17 told I'd have depression for the rest of my life. And luckily for me, at 13, they gave me antidepressants. So I took them, and I realized I felt different, but there was no way the problem was fixed. So I stopped taking them. I refused. 17, I did the same. And they offered me antidepressants. So I said, no, you tried to give me antidepressants at 13. I'm not taking antidepressants for the rest of my life. What can I do? I did a thing called CBT. And that enabled me to discover myself, basically. Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy enabled me to see that I had basically accumulated a lot of things that were not me. And so I managed to overcome my depression within 5 years. It took me, but I did it. Then I did NLP, and I only really got introduced into meditation about 3 or 4 years ago. But it is the ultimate solution, is to find yourself through meditation, to connect with this universe and see what is really out there with source, as you say, and see what is really out there, what limitless potential we truly have is actually something you just can't go back from. It's just absolutely life-changing experience. And for, having been on 2 different journeys, having been on a mental health journey, I've also have been on an addiction journey, and now been on a spiritual journey. They are all, the only way you get them to work is by finding out who you really are. But spirituality is the easiest, most rewarding, and most grounding way of looking inwards and finding who you really are, from my experience. And so a big part of that is consciousness. And we're here at the show is Conscious Creators. And so what is consciousness from your experience?
Consciousness is the energy that is imbued into our being as a result of incredible advancements in intelligence. If we are not conscious of our own selves, then we are stuck in a certain cycle of living. Once the being becomes conscious of itself and what is beyond itself, the vastness of this universe, there's no stopping the advancement of that consciousness. It becomes connected to the everything, to the all one, seeing Brahman, God, all seeing, all present, and it starts to expand. So consciousness is everything, but nothing at the same time, because you can't physically touch consciousness. You can't yet measure consciousness with instruments. You can't see consciousness. It is like the wind, you see the result of the wind, but you can't actually see the wind itself. It does all these things for us. It's moving all the time. It's in the air, but we can't see that air actually moving itself. We see the result of it being there. It's the same as, consciousness. It's so hard to put our finger on it. It's so hard for people to explain, but it is the energy that allows us to perceive ourselves and be in this world the way that we're in it. As conscious creators, we're able to imbue a level of intentionality into our moment-to-moment experience, which ultimately changes our lives. People around the world right now are waking up to that fact and realizing that they're not just a walking dead,
Mm-hmm.
They're able to direct their life where they want it, and therefore it's worth living again, and it has purpose, and it has a feeling of, well, this is my life. Well, what do I want to do with it? Consciousness is that energy that we are blessed with as human beings, so that we can explore this world and everything that we are, playing with in the human drama. So it's like the energy that allows everything to exist and that moves everything within that beautiful, chaotic drama of life.
Thank you. What an amazing explanation. Absolutely. And so you
I
mentioned,
don't want to dirty it any more than that.
oh,
I'd
well,
rather
no,
not. I'd
honestly,
rather not dirty it any more than that.
and I love the way you said we can't measure consciousness yet. So I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you mentioned conscious creation. So when did that become apparent to you? When did you really first hear the term conscious creator? Mm.
Uh, conscious, Consciously creating life came, into my experience as words. When I was doing a lot of work on Insight Timer and with people that were dealing with their past, when the past starts to accumulate and we don't have ways to release past experiences and that memory just starts to stick within us, we are finding ourselves almost like a dumping ground for our own actions.
Mm.
Everything that we do, everything we think, everything we feel, everything we perform, everything we don't perform, everything we deny, everything we accept, everything that has ever happened to us, within us, around us, it leaves a sort of imprint on what we are. Now, what we are is a combination of physical manifestation, our mental scape, our emotional content, and the energy that exists in this universe. And memory plays out in many, many different ways. And I thought it is such an abomination for human beings to be taught that they just are what they are and there's nothing else that they can do. You're born with a set of circumstances, you go through life, maybe get lucky, maybe you don't, and you come out the other end with either a life that was worth, bragging about and showing off to people, or, just, better luck next time. And it's like people are just living their lives as if everything is predetermined. I thought that's crazy, because everything that I've ever been taught, from my mother to the spiritual teachers that I've had to, close, you know, all the teachers in my life have ultimately taught me that I'm not a fixed being, that I am something. I don't even understand what I am yet, but what I do know is that I am able to create my experience not from what I surround myself with only, but most importantly from within myself. Within myself is the opportunity to create any sort of experience that I want. You can give me a, a absolute, rant and give me all of your negativity, but what I'm interested in is what I can turn that into, how I can affect and influence that situation. Just as much as you can give me all of your love and affection and attention, but still, I feel this immense responsibility to do something positive with that. So for me, the content in my life is not as important as the way that I perceive what is, right? And because we are in this way creating our own reality all the time, that's why people who are rich and famous are committing suicide, and why people who have literally nothing on this earth and don't have much to share in terms of physical stuff, they're some of the most content, peaceful, happy, blissed out people that you can find. So it's clearly not about what we have or surround ourselves with. That's a byproduct of the way that we live. And so the way that we choose to live is the most important decision that we're ever going to make in our life. And so I want all of the people that I touch in my world to understand this, to understand that it is not what you do that is important in your life. What is most important is how you turn yourself into a conscious creator in this world. Because if you can consciously create, which everyone is capable of on some level, even the people that are disembodied, who come to this earth with very little soul connection, who are just full of evil and ignorance and patterns of suffering, there's still a part of them that seeks the limitless experience of life. And that's only available outside of the physical realm, because physically everything comes from something and ends. So there's a timeline there. It's fixed. If you're born, you're going to die. If there's a part of you that is beyond this one act of being born and dying, and it's actually a continuous loop, something within you that is eternal, something that is within you that doesn't have these limitations, then there is a part of you that yearns to experience and know what that is. And so you can only experience that and start to tap into that when you take full responsibility and full ownership for your ability to consciously create.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I want to create a community of people who are consciously creating their life, because that's how paradise is created on earth, from a bunch of people deciding, I'm not comfortable and okay with the status quo. I'm not going to let myself go anymore. I want to take care of myself. And naturally, when we take care of ourselves, we find that we have the leverage now to uplift other beings. And that is the joy of being a conscious creator, is realizing that once you take care of a few things fundamentally with yourself, it opens up the whole existence for you. It opens up the entire phenomena of life to you, within you. And when we do that, we naturally will want to share that with others, because that's what we're here for. So I created the Conscious Creators community. I love it that we both, started to play with these words in our own existence, because I find that a little bit creepy too, because how did you find me? It's a big world, we're both, working in with the monikers of conscious and creation. So um, I created this community on Inside Timer just to bring people together. And so we meditate daily together. It's a way for people to be in contact with my work and have a closer connection with me. So the Conscious Creators community I started several years ago on Inside Timer as a way to, kind of bring good energy. Like when you create words that have a kinetic sort of energy to them, um, consciously creating something feels like it's not just being created out of old patterns. It's being created out of what you truly are, which is an energy, a quality of energy that is aware of itself, aware of the immense realm of physical existence that we are in, and it is aligning that and directing that energy in such a way where it is taking part in the natural flow of creation of life. And that's not a small thing to step into. So it's a big role to play and to actually discover within yourself. But for anyone who's on the spiritual path, for anyone who's on the path of bettering themselves, for anyone who's on the path of just opening themselves up to life, this is a very important step along that journey, is, taking joy from that responsibility of creating consciously in this world, because there's a lot of people who are not doing that, and we feel the weight of that every single day. We feel the weight of that when we turn on the telly, We feel the weight of that when we go to the supermarket. We feel the weight of that when we just wake up in this world that has been created from someone's consciousness. But what quality of consciousness has this world in its current form been created from? I think we have a long way to go. And that starts with every single person taking that journey, stepping up to the plate and saying, I'm not just going to live by my old patterns anymore. I'm not just going to go along with the program. I'm going to consciously create my own program. And so this is why I do, bi-weekly sessions to sync up with the moon, because the moon obviously has a huge impact on life on this planet. And when we take part in that cyclical happening, we start to be able to see the patterns that are affecting us. We be able to start creating and imbuing different sorts of conscious practices that help us realize our own divinity and the divine relationship that we have with the world.
Amazing, thank you. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more since I've aligned with lunar cycles and started meditating on them. My life has come to a place of flow. And I mean, the information you've shared today has been absolutely out of this world for a lot of us. But for me, it's exactly where I am now. And I think, like, as you say, it is time. Now there's enough awareness that we all take the responsibility to ourselves and become conscious creators, because we have a beautiful planet here. We have a beautiful universe that we're in. And, we shouldn't be waking up, like you say, every day to what we could call bad news, different things. We shouldn't have all these struggles in our world, and we're not going to have forever. So, it's whether you join today and become a conscious creator with Elliot, or on your own, or whether you join in the future, is the way I'd see it, because we are going to change this existence, and people are waking up to the power of self-discovery and attachment to source, to the understanding that there is so much more out there than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Well said.
Cheers. And so, I mean, some of the points you made today are just so crucial. There really is no happiness in material possessions. There is no happiness in the labels that we are given as we exist in our life. But there is happiness in looking inwards and knowing ourselves and connecting to the energy of life, and knowing that there is so much more to life than we've been led to believe so far. So I think on that note,
it's a really good point, because there is so much that is being taught to us that we are meant to accept and to just take on board. But the immensity and the profundity of becoming a conscious creator is realizing that you have the ability to create your own world. You have the ability to create your own system of understanding things, that nobody's perception of the world is going to be exactly the same. So whatever the system that has been taught to you or shoved down your throat or given to you, that you've been exposed to, each individual has their own ability to create that system, that framework, to understand and see the whole world. And some people, they get real freaked out when they realize this, because they have woken up to the point where they now realize it's all on them. Everything is on them. Everything that's ever happened in their life is in some part their responsibility. Even the parents that they chose to come into this life with. Part of that is a decision that's made on the soul level. So when we realize that we have the ability to create our own system of perceiving the world, and that we can do away with the one that has been given to us, that we've been raised and brought up in, that's a big responsibility to take. And that's a big step forward on the conscious journey of being human. And it's incredibly liberating when we take that on and have the actual means to stabilize ourselves and be clear with what we're experiencing, because we need that balance and clarity in order to function within a new system of manifesting. Because when we step into our divine nature, there's so much that becomes available to us, yet very few have the necessary tools to recalibrate and to go forward in such a way where they are being led still by divinity and not just their imagination, not just deeper patterns of suffering and samsara. So we want to break free of these cycles of patterning that we've been exposed to. We want to experience the limitless nature of ourselves. But to do that, we have to take right action. We have to take right speech. We have to take the right path in order to do that. So my journey is that I want to share these very real tools with people, that if you want to learn how to break free of your past, there are tools to do so. There are ways of tapping into energy that have been established on this planet through different traditions and modalities that help an individual move out of those patterns and into the ability to create that which they seek. So to do that, it's not like you have to perform some sort of magic ritual. It starts with making some very basic decisions in the right direction, and then learning the tools in order to use your own energy to create that which you seek in this world. And that's at the heart of consciously creating anything, is to realize that it already exists within yourself. And if you tap into that and find ways to keep that connection going and healthy and vibrant, then the whole world opens up to you in a multitude of ways that you can't even fathom at the moment. So this experience of life is so grand and so expansive that it can be quite scary or intimidating to get started on, in terms of creating it yourself. But when we do it the right way and we have somebody who can show us the way, and that isn't trying to exploit us or to muddle our own navigation system with just another form of garbage that they learned from. If you find someone that's truly dedicated on this path of being a light in the world, then you found something special that you should hold on to and continue to learn from that as much as possible.
I love that. Yeah, and I think in all industries, so I'm quite connected with the coaching industry myself, and there's the same thing. You have people who just learn something and repeat it and share it with you, and people who live it and bring out the innate goodness in you. And that's really where the key is finding yourself, not just learning new things, not just doing new things, is finding yourself and then creating what you want in alignment with this world. And it's not about material things, it's not about wealth, fulfillment, satisfaction. All those things, they don't come from those places. All of those things can be taken away from you at a moment's notice, and if you rely on those things to live your life, then ultimately you could be unhappy at any moment. So dig deep.
Yes, so, the answer is always within.
The answer is always within. Elliot, it's been an absolute honor to have you on today. Absolute pleasure. The wisdom you've imparted in this short show has been amazing. To anyone listening, if you're looking to find Elliot, you can find him on Insight Timer, on his website, on Facebook, on Instagram. I highly recommend his meditations. They really helped me and they've been incredibly transformative. And not to mention educational as well. And that's one of the things that I didn't get to mention. Is one of the things I love about all of the meditations I've done is, one, how calm you are, And then two, how much information you actually give during a meditation while keeping it feeling completely natural and meditative. Very, very, I recommend anyone check out Elliot on Insight Timer. So thank you, Elliot. Thank you so much for today. It's been
Thank you,
an absolute
Matthew.
honor.
I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and spend this time together.
I really appreciate the opportunity and to share this space with you. Namaste.
Namaste, Pranam.